Where is today? Getting there.
Right, looks like we're live. Kia ora koutou, welcome along everybody to our information session today. We will start off with our KPIs. Stand. Whakatake te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga, kia mā kina ki uta, kia mā taratara ki tāna. E hi ake ana te atakura, e tio he hiko, he tauhu, ti hei Māori ora. Don't have any apologies today, but we do have, we've got an apology for lateness from Jake, who's going to be here in a few minutes online. And online also we have Ali and Pauline and John and Simon. So welcome you guys. And first up today we have Glenda Martin from Volunteering Canterbury, who's here to update us on what's going on. Welcome along, Glenda.
Kia ora. So thank you very much for the opportunity to come along to this meeting and talk to the board, community board. It's kind of love talking about volunteering, so I am putting my watch on here so that I stop after 20 minutes, otherwise it'll be a long day for everybody. And so I just wanted to run through, I understand you people are out and about in the community quite a lot. You're hearing about a few challenges and so on, and really wanted to emphasise what we can do to help volunteers. And so please send people our way if you've got questions, and also put perhaps a little bit of context around why some of the organisations might be having the challenges that they are. So I thought that I would just press this button and it would move, but it's not quite. Oh, look at that. Thank you. So this is just a bit of a snapshot, really, of 2023 from the perspective of Volunteering Canterbury, noting that Volunteering Canterbury has about 280 member organisations. So these figures reflect the work that's happening, the mahi aroha that's happening with those organisations. So I would suggest that it's tough essentially. So if we're representing 280 organisations, there's about 1,200 not-for-profits across the greater Waipapa Canterbury region. So we're looking at 674,000 volunteer hours contributed to the community, equivalent of about 324 full-time people, and we use, well actually the government uses the minimum wage to put a bit of a dollar value on that. So 15.3 million across Waipapa Canterbury from the volunteer teams within those 280 community organisations. Last year we presented 38 volunteer awards. We smashed our records of people who had nominated people for outstanding volunteer contributions to their teams. We've just closed those awards for this year, and we've got 52 awards this year. Not quite sure of the logistics of how that all works, but that's the sort of recognition that people are looking for. Last year we celebrated 35 years, so we established in the late 80s by the then Mayoress Lady Hay, who was keen to have an organisation based in Aotearoa, Christchurch, supporting mainly youth groups that she was involved with, essentially, to make sure that they had the volunteers they needed on board. The figure that really interests me the most is the 157,000 Cantabrians. So they're the people who directly benefit from the contribution that's being made by the gifting of hours back into the community. So I thought also that we might just move on and have a look at just a quick snapshot. It's a bit of a video montage. If we could pull that up, and just to give a bit of a snapshot, as I say, of the diversity of volunteering that's happening around our area. We worked at the end of last year, very privileged to work alongside some second year students from New Zealand Broadcasting School. So they came up with some amazing stories. So in terms of the themes around volunteering, the volunteer experience and what the general landscape looks like, there's 58.6% of people in rural areas who volunteer. National average is 50.7, and Christchurch sits there at 47.5%. If we go through to the next one, in terms of the hours, and I was talking to Helene just before about that, the number of hours that volunteers are putting in. So national average over the previous 4 weeks is nearly 16 hours for one volunteer. Rural volunteers are doing about 12.8 hours over that same period. North Island reports a higher number of volunteer hours, but more South Islanders are involved in volunteering than North Islanders as a percentage of population. So we're sitting there pretty nicely with volunteering and very much alive and well down here in the South Island. That won't be taken into account sort of the extra hours that happen around. So for example, in the video, there's a snapshot of Coast Guard doing what Coast Guard essentially does. But we know that during the Port Hill fires, for example, Coast Guard was out on the harbour keeping the area clean and clear for the monsoon buckets to be coming in. Again, 0800 Hungry were packing food there. Again, they were helping to feed the firefighters. So those are sort of extra hours. Also, there was an image there of people involved with sport. A lot of people don't count their involvement with sport, marae-based, faith-based. So people just do it, so not being counted. It's about 1 million people who say that they are involved with volunteering in sport annually in New Zealand, which suggests that the amazing reputation that we have across so many different sporting codes internationally has been supported at its basis and grassroots in the community by volunteers. Pretty hard as a Kiwi to get through too many decades into your life without being involved in some sort of fundraising, sausage sizzling or whatever, and that's all essentially what's driving the sort of hours that we then report. In terms of some of the challenges, if we move on to the next slide, what we're seeing, which is possibly what you're hearing, and in terms of challenges around finding volunteers. So while there's the age of volunteers, so South Island has a slightly higher proportion of volunteers over the age of 55 compared to the North Island, but equally we have a higher proportion of volunteers under the age of 35, which is actually quite significant. It's significant because while the largest number of people volunteering are that's 60 and over, the biggest growth rate in volunteering is 18 to 30. And our figures coming through our website reflect that as well. And that's really important because we've got a bit of a gap in the middle, and we'll talk a little about what's happening to some of our older people as we move on. The other thing that you might be hearing in terms of the next slide is this turnover of volunteers. It's the bane of the life of many of our organisations who tend to be under-resourced anyway, that they have to continually be onboarding new volunteers. Unfortunately, that's just kind of part of the course. A couple of decades ago, you entered a career field, perhaps you might have even stayed with the same business for your entire career, but you certainly would have probably stayed in the same career field. It's not happening these days, and so what we see in the paid workforce is very much reflected in volunteering. People want to try different things. No one stays in the same place. And there's also reasons around sort of mental health issues and uncertainties that also impacts on that. So turnover of volunteers on the next slide, the highest turnover is recorded as being in Dunedin, 26.2%, but next there is Christchurch, 21%. Those challenges around turnover, I would say, started possibly earlier in Christchurch than other parts of New Zealand. Immediately following the earthquake, people weren't able to commit to volunteering like they had been previously. They had all sorts of things that they were dealing with. They didn't know where they might be or what they were having to deal with, so they weren't committing as much. That does result in a turnover of volunteers.
Can I just ask quickly, How does that compare to the rest of the country?
I probably have those within my state of volunteering report, but I just kind of picked out.
That's right. It's not significantly higher or anything here.
No, that's kind of like the highest is Dunedin and West. That's where West sit. But yeah, it does. There is a bit of variation, and it's kind of reflected around urban and rural as well. So urban volunteers are still sticking with it and sticking longer term, but in the urban areas, people are moving around quite a lot. So looking at why that might be, changing through to the next slide, some changes in lifestyle. So I talked about that older age group. That older age group is obviously a group that's still doing the most volunteering in our community. However, there's some changes happening there as well. For example, retirement villages. So increasingly people are living in retirement village situation where in essence they're surrounded by everything that they need in terms of particularly social connection, which is probably the number one thing that people talk about older people while they're volunteering. So if they've got that all around them within that retirement village setting, there's not necessarily the need for them to seek social connection in the wider community. That creates some problems for those of us who need volunteers in the wider community. There's also a larger number of people moving in that age bracket into caregiving roles for grandchildren, and that relates to cost of living where perhaps households are two people working full-time, so they're stepping in to fill in a slot to enable their own children to work full-time, and they step into that grandparenting role quite actively. And the other thing is this, and we don't know what it looks like, but there are increasingly people reaching a retirement age who won't own their own homes. What does that look like? Will they be more transient, have less ability to kind of take up volunteering in terms of, again, that cost of living and a ceiling on their income? We know that post-COVID, some of those older volunteers also haven't come back into the volunteering world. One of the reasons for that is that they were really keen during the first lockdown. We were getting calls from people who were feeling very isolated because they were no longer volunteering. But 2 years is a bit of a long time, particularly at certain stages in people's lives. And so many have chosen not to come back into volunteering after that second lockdown. Cost of living, I've talked about that. Essentially, that's also why we need to be encouraging our organisations to have volunteer expense budgets so that they can support people if they need to travel by bus or parking or whatever. Everything's just really tight out there. In terms of the motivations for people to volunteer, that's also changing. So we're seeing a lot of motivation is to pick up skills that are easily transferable into paid employment, and that accounts also for some of that high turnover, particularly in the urban areas. And again, the global insecurity impacting on mental health. So that's not just a trend in New Zealand. In fact, it's probably being felt in a slightly different way, but still very significant in Europe, where people are much more mindful of conflicts closer to them, like of Ukraine and Gaza, and the global economy. So when people are uncertain and unsure, then they're not as able necessarily in a mental space to be thinking of gifting back into the community. And that I often talk about the competition for volunteers because there is only one pot, right, of volunteers. So on the next slide, I've got a quote from one of the volunteer managers who said it's getting harder and harder to retain volunteers. Lots are always on the lookout for greener pastures and more interesting roles. We're always needing to keep up and make sure our work remains, exciting and impactful. So if you're talking to organisations and they're finding it challenging to find volunteers and retain them, talk to them about making sure that their volunteers understand the impact that they're actually making in their communities. The next slide identifies the main reason that people aren't volunteering in New Zealand, and that is because they say they are time poor. I would argue if they realised if they were feeling really valued and the impact that they were making was well understood, we kind of tend to find time if we can. But so part of the impetus on that is back, I would suggest, onto the organisations to be getting those sorts of things right. Next slide has got a few shots of people out in our group volunteering program. So this is a program which facilitates business groups and young people. That's North Loburn school kids out the whole school community day last month. The central picture is a group from a business. Can't remember the name of the business, but they're all logoed up in Kairos. So they're at Kairos Food Rescue. And the right-hand slide is a group of young people gifting back by repurposing laptops which have been donated and which will then be donated on to people in the community who need them. So the next slide gives the figures around what that looks like. It's about 3,500 hours through that program alone went into the community last year. On the right-hand side is an idea of where it went, and on the left-hand side is most of the businesses that went out last year listed there. And also special interest groups. So last year we had Church of Christ, Christchurch Jewish Community Step Ahead, and a few schools who we tend to work with on a fairly regular basis. The other thing that we've done in order, and the next slide shows, is Family Volunteer Days. So that's an opportunity at a weekend where we find a spot and we create a family volunteer opportunity. So we're not asking people to take time out of being with their families. It's also intergenerational. Absolutely buzzy to be in facilitating a program like this where people who have not met before are shoulder to shoulder painting a wall, getting really excited about it. That particular day we did have rocks for the smaller kids to be painting because we didn't think they'd be interested in the wall, but as you'll see that there's some grim determination there of youngsters getting involved in painting the wall, and Dad went home with quite a lot of paint down the back of his sweatshirt on that occasion. So what we're doing to support volunteering is we run monthly workshop, 1 hour sessions where we talk about things like health and safety, reimbursement, recognition, things that our managers of volunteers need to know. Generally speaking, people don't wake up and decide they're going to be a volunteer manager. They end up in the role by lots of chance. And so they come into that with all sorts of different experience. So we try and fill the gaps by providing the information that we know that they need to know. Volunteers don't sit under employment legislation per se, but they do sit under health and safety legislation and are entitled to a workspace which is free from harassment and all that sort of thing. And our volunteer managers need to understand that. We offer in-depth workshops through the year, telling things about how to tell your story really well, barriers or setting boundaries, difficult conversations, that sort of support we offer as well. And Rata Foundation has continued to fund us again this year for a governance session because we recognise that organisations all have to have a governance team, not the sexiest of jobs perhaps, but a really important one. And so those roll out once a month. And last year 220 people attended those sessions. So when looking for how others might support volunteers programs, just really emphasising that you need to make people feel worthwhile and valued. That's the key to retaining, and also ensuring that they really consider, if they don't already have it, and I see it often, a budget for volunteer expenses, that they can put on a morning tea, that they can send out a card during National Volunteer Week, and just let people know that they are appreciated, and also around the expenses, that it is inclusive. We believe everybody should have the right to be able to give back into the community and be a part of that. We use a website for recruitment that our member organisations use on the next slide, and it's probably the main thing that we're known for. We don't talk enough, we're in a bit of catch-up mode with the slides, but we don't talk enough about the benefits too, on the next slide, to our volunteers. We talk about the the importance of that contribution to our community organisation. But people really need to understand that if you're looking for some ways to tick off the 5 ways of wellbeing, volunteering will actually manage to do it all. And then I thought I would just leave with a video that kind of gives an idea, a bit of a taste of the impact for the people on the end of the volunteering and also for the people who are volunteering themselves.
And my mentoring role is been doing that since April this year.
I felt great, and I felt really good to seeing him. And we've been out in the rooms when we were going up to because of him and stopped. And I got to do him. He helped me with my things. He asked me, and I've been really good. Thank you for all the stuff.
Firstly, I'm not used to getting feedback like that. It makes me feel I'm doing that. Damn, I've got good grip. I've got good grip. Don't tell anyone. Yeah, I'm pretty open honest. I have my challenges. I still love myself.
Beautiful, that's me. As I say, I have got some packs here for, I've got 10. I've got some of the information in there of what we do in terms of what the government flight sessions look like, what the Totoko support network sessions are like and so on for the rest of the year. So feel free to grab those and
Yeah, if you just leave them there, we'll
yeah.
grab some.
Yeah.
Thanks very much, Lena. We've got very quick questions because we've gone over time. We'll go Ali and then Victoria.
Great, thanks, Emma. Glenda, amazing. I know that, I think most of our communities would fall over, excuse me, if we didn't have, the amazing volunteers we do. You said that you do hear about what the needs are out there. I was talking to a health nurse this morning who goes into homes, and she's still seeing a lot of stress and upset with regards to earthquake claims. I'm still getting them referred to me. Do you hear that as well? And do you have anything within Volunteering Canterbury that helps facilitate and liaise with those people?
Not directly, no, we don't. But we do hear that. And when we look at the trends around people not committing to volunteering and so on, that definitely started in Christchurch post-quake. So it is impacting on people's ability to put themselves forward for volunteering and to commit. And that's just going on. We got a head start on that, which is essentially it's a global trend, but we did get a head start, unfortunately, on that post-quake here in Christchurch. But definitely when people are under some stress themselves, then that they're not as likely to be able to put their hand up to do more in the community. They might often be actually presenting and needing to be assisted. What that looks like from the volunteer manager's perspective is that they need people to be on their teams who are supporting them to put the services out into the community, and they don't have time to support those people who have some issues, who back in the day that there would have been more more people around who could have supported those people. So that means that some of those vulnerable people who would essentially really benefit from making some social connections aren't being as openly received into volunteer programs as they should be. But it's because of a lack of how do we handle that by volunteer managers to some extent. And that's the sort of thing that we try to provide with our workshops around conversations, difficult conversations, boundaries, putting boundaries in place and that sort of thing.
Okay, you know about the New Zealand Claims Resolution Service, a free service for people who may be struggling, both for people who want to volunteer and people in the public?
Say it again, sorry?
Sorry, are you aware of the New Zealand Claims Resolution Service? It's a free service that helps support people who are struggling with earthquake claims and
heard of it, but that's not something that we've been involved in promoting in any way.
No, I'm not meaning that. I mean for people who would volunteer but feel they can't because of stresses. Sorry, I was misunderstanding you. I thought you said there wasn't much support out there for people like that.
Yeah, I think from my point of view, I'm talking about support within the volunteer programs themselves, and that's where we're trying to get our organisations really robust that they can support some of those people, because we know that it has quite an impact on them then being able to feel valued and move through some things with a bit of support.
Alrighty, thank you.
Okay, you're good. Cool. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to come along, Glenda. That's really helpful information. I know we'll all take that out and use that where we can. Thanks very much. Cool. Next up, we have Petrie Park update. We've got Hayley and Bridget.
And Rachel's apologies. She said, "Oh, that's no good. Don't come near me."
Cool. So you're just going to give us an update on where you're at?
Sure am. Yep. We've got a picture somewhere. Start the clock. So yeah, so kia ora koutou. Yeah, so we just wanted to come and give you an update really because we've made some progress and thanks for continuing to support the project and making it a priority and getting us some of that better off funding, which has been really helpful as you'll find out shortly, as a bit of a base to kickstart the built structure that we're proposing to put on site. So we had a bit of an about face at the end of last year with the Urban Parks Forest Plan. Petrie Park actually was scheduled to be on that plan, and it kind of threw our plans in a bit of array. But then we got together with Toby and his team, and we've come up with a joint plan, which is pretty cool. Yeah. So you can see roughly we're going to forest the whole site and weave in amongst it some nature play, and we're going to continue with our program of soil testing and plant accumulators to fix the soil. And we're also going to be putting in a built structure, but Bridget's going to talk more about the landscape plan. I'm just going to talk to you about where we've got to with the soil testing and the conditions that we've got to deal with on the site. So we've been working with a soil professional and she's been amazing. So what we've established is that at the bottom end of the park, we've got some asbestos issues. So the proposal is we're going to cap them so we don't have to remove any of the soil from the site. We're just going to cap it with a metre cap. Half a metre
cap. So
top.
basically we'll just cap it and we'll put this fabric down that will contain the contaminants, and that will be suffice and within legal obligations and things to fix that issue. And then the area where we found quite a high level of arsenic at the top end of the park, which was where we were going to put our built structure. So number one, it's around that area. We're going to avoid that, and we're going to, if you could scroll the page down, Mark, up, sorry. Number two is our built structure, and that's not where we were going to put it. Actually, is it? We're going to put it, yeah. So we're to avoid the contaminants, we're putting which is number two, on the other side of the pathway. And in the end, we felt like it was going to be a much better position for parents to be able to
like picnic and watch their kids in the playground and they can see everything from that location, whereas where we had originally wanted it, it was going to get covered by the urban trees and stuff. So yeah, so the plan of attack to tackle the contaminants is capping one end and continuing to do soil samples and have a little bit of like an education test garden where we found the arsenic. And the arsenic's there because the shed was there, and that's come from whatever they used in the bowling club. Yeah. So yeah, so it's pretty exciting. And to be able to move, it's actually put us ahead probably 5 years by merging it with the Urban Parks team and working together on a plan. So I'm going to hand you over to Bridget, who's going to talk to you about the bigger, all the cool stuff that we're going to be putting in there.
Yeah, so we talked about the initial plan of how the urban forest would work with connecting patch forest theory and would connect with the larger ecological areas that we have for birds to have a place to stop and feed. So it worked really well with the urban forest. We were both on the same page with that. This planting plan, this is what the urban forest has proposed. And that works in with the recession plane of not the bigger trees will be in the middle of the park, going down to smaller, so it will not affect anyone's shade for neighbouring properties either, and also still be open in terms of crime prevention. And throughout the park with the plantings, we've got the nature play and the mowed grass, and within that, what we picked up was really popular for people using this park was walking the dogs. It seems to be the most common activity, so that's been built into the design and putting in features that people who walk their dogs can have some features for the dogs, and also probably children would probably want to use those as well. So they'll be on the outside where the mowed grass is. And so that has a sort of, there'll be 2 tracks for the dogs, whether you just still wanted to do your loop, which most people do, or if you wanted to do a slightly more agility track, that would be in, and that would be also for people. On the side, we have the fences that have remained from the bowling club, and part of our proposal was to build in a mural on the side, so that's number 8. So we've been working on the plan for that mural. And so we've done some drawings. I've done some drawings. So on the right-hand side, which would be your north, looking at the urban forest, so I just thought it'd be easier to actually show you. We could do these murals based on the Dilucus maps of what would have previously grown in that ecological area. So it's the wet kahikatea and also the totara. It's sort of on a borderline for that park. And the way we're going to do the murals is that it's going to be a community project. So it's quite stylised, and one of these would be a standard piece of ply that you could buy, and then we can paint that with the community and then fix it to the wall. So on that side, and then we thought, because we've got so many dogs, we asked the neighbourhood. Now this has just been a bit of a collage for people to bring us their dog photos.
Oh, wow.
And so we got overwhelmed with dogs. And I have
just turn that around. The people on Zoom with the cats, that camera up there. So
Can you see that, people on Zoom?
Oh, it's still a wee bit too far away. It would be great if it could be. Can you do like a panoramic scanny thing of it, Hayley, and flick it out as a?
Ellie, no worries. I can do that.
No, you're very IT focused. There better be a greyhound on there.
Yes, there is a greyhound.
Yep.
Good.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Awesome.
So I think there was 27 dogs. That people got very excited. We even got their backstories about the dogs and why they like the park. And so each of these, this would be 10 panels that we can paint separately. So it means we can do it at the school as well. So we don't have to bring kids if they have an issue with the contaminated soil as well. And then fix these to the walls. And we've broken up. And what we were hoping to do also was espalier some grape bushes as well, so we can make the walls really interactive. And we still have our timeline pieces that I think we showed you last time that we've printed onto ACM panels, and we can also fix those up by the northwest, up by the shelter, so that when people come, they also get an education about the park and the history, and also that the fact that it is getting reverted back to the native forest as well. And I think also within the urban forest, not all of it has to be native. So that's when the urban forest has got it to a thing where then it goes out to consultation, and part of that consultation is that they ask feedback about what people think of the plans, and then what kind of trees they want to see and what's important to them. And so that consultation will be working together with the urban forest. And then from there, we choose the trees based on what people would like to see in the park. So, yeah, I mean, there is a possibility to have fruit trees as well, but it also, those questions do go out as part of the urban forest consultation.
So this was supposed to go out for consultation with the last lot last month, but we shaved it off to give us time to combine the two plans together so they could go out to the neighbourhood as one. Yeah. And then the final thing is if you scroll down, Mark, please, the built structure. So we're going to start fundraising for that now, soon, very soon. And so the idea is it's a real simple structure. It kind of aligns back to the bowling club feel, to that historical data. We want to be able to capture water off the roof to be able to use in the plantings, and just providing a nice facility for people to be able to use in the park for picnicking and being undercover and stuff. So yeah, we've actually already started fundraising for that. And then what else was I going to say? And we'll continue our community consultation. So we'll do this consultation with the urban parks team, but we'll be doing the murals and all of that stuff with the local school kids. Methodist Mission are interested in involved as well because they're across the road, in Guild Street. And yeah, so it's pretty exciting. Very excited. Yay! And that's probably about it. Anything else?
No, I think, that's it. And you'll note that we can't put trees down where we're capping the soil, or that there'll be small shrubs, because a tree won't be able to grow through that geotech fibre. So yeah, that reduced, I think we had to take out maybe 3 trees for that, but yeah.
So I guess our request today is, well, to keep you updated and also just continue to support in any way you can.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah. Any questions?
I'm guessing you will work on this with the urban forest team, but when it goes out for consultation, I'm hoping that will include details of what you're doing, like the consultation information will include all those.
Yeah. So instead of we've been working with Boff and Miskell, who's been tasked with the tree plan, to work with us to combine our plan with their plan. That's right. I get to go out.
Cool. Yeah. So it'll be different to the other ones.
It will be, yeah, because it'll have all of our different areas and built structure and things. Yeah.
Question?
Janelle, thank you for that. It's great to see that we've been able to be moving forward with in partnership with the urban forest. The shelter that we're talking about.
Yes.
Did you say that's not where it's going to be?
Do we turn it around? I can't remember.
Well, that's just a square.
Yeah. So it's up the top, but it's roughly where it's going to be.
Yeah. So have you got any indication of costs for that year as to how much you need to fundraise?
It's not too bad. Okay. Yeah. We're probably
not too bad for me.
It's probably going to be about 100 all up. Yeah. So it's not
and I'm interested in what grass with dog features means.
Yeah.
Number 3. What does that mean?
So we were looking at, putting in, and we're actually going to go look next week, some tunnels that the dogs would like to. Yeah. So it's not going to be an official dog park. Yeah, but we could put some seesaws and.
Thanks, dogs go. Okay, so the next question that follows on from that, recognising that a number of people use this park for their dogs.
Yeah.
Have you got one of those flash new rubbish doggy bins, or what's the go? Is that part of the plan as well to ensure that there's a place for people to dispose of dog waste?
I think, yeah, well, I think we'd have to look at that and work in with who we need to, yeah.
Yeah, I think the general thesis around that is no bins.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, the bins are overflowing currently.
Take it home with you and put it in your
Yeah.
red bin.
Yeah,
The council really kindly picks up from your gate.
yeah.
Well, because you're not far, most people are neighbours.
Yeah,
So they, yeah.
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 But that is a great idea. There are some pretty cool solutions to doggy do that maybe we could look at. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some innovative solutions like bokashi on site rather than a bag and a bin. Yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah, maybe it could be a little bit of a tester.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea.
Because I know there was another dog mural, not that I've been studying dog murals. With, you know, those messages, so we can incorporate that into the message of pick up after your dog.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I'm so far, whatever consultation you guys have, or what is the feel of the neighbors who are sharing the boundaries? They're on board with the idea?
Yes, yeah. So we've done a number of barbecues and whatnot, and everyone's been kind of part of the process. And like we've discovered, it's a popular after work dog walking place.
Nice.
So
And my last question is the area where you're going to camp, it's sharing a boundary with a neighbor, right? So is that asbestos has gone to their area as well?
No.
Okay.
And we're in communication with that particular neighbour, so they're aware of what's going on.
Okay. Cool.
That was the former bowling club house,
Mhm.
bowling, the club rooms, and that's where the asbestos has come from. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
I had a question, Emma. Yeah, thank you. Just want to say, I think that the idea about the dog trial and being innovative, please do that. Well, I mean, that's going to be a win-win. Yeah, this take your poo with you. I've just come back from overseas and it doesn't work there and it doesn't work places around here either. So, you know, people tie it to trees, they chuck it in bushes, and unfortunately it's the way people are. My question is, are you putting any edibles in here? You know, the fruit forest idea is very old, been well discussed. It would be awesome to have some fruit trees in here. Is that a consideration?
Yeah, so up by number four, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, did I miss that? What's going in there?
At this stage, it's going out for the consultation part of it, but it will all be a food forest. It's just a small one. Yeah, just to give people
Hey,
access.
a small one's better than not having one. That's great. Thank you.
Because in terms of the contamination, we can grow fruit trees, but the actual growing edibles in the soil, such as lettuce or those things, it's a bit more restricted.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming along and updating us. We're pleased to be able to support the project and look forward to seeing the next steps.
Yeah,
Very cool.
awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Great. Up next, we have alcohol licensing. Dave, is it? Yep, Dave and Tracy. Yep. Welcome along.
Hi, how are you?
Thank you.
Just by way of introduction, I'm Tracy Weston. I'm the Head of Regulatory Compliance, and Dave Joker, he's our alcohol licensing team leader and also the Chief Licensing Inspector for the district. So Dave's going to give you a briefing today, and we'll open for some questions and back from there.
Thanks.
Do you want to take the briefing note as read, or do you want me to read it out?
No, we'll take it as we've all got it in our agenda, so it should have been read.
Okay. All right. Straight to questions.
Yeah, or you can provide some statistics or information that you have.
Oh, I just went and had a quick look to see what you've actually got in your area. So for Central, you've got 282 premises. For off licenses, 40 of those 282, 46 are off licenses. And I'll talk about off licenses very shortly. For Papanui, you have 52 premises, and off there's 10. And then in Innes, you have 37 premises, and off licenses, you have 14. So off licenses cover your bottle stores, your supermarkets, and then your remote cellar. And your remote cellar is usually like a small manufacturer of gin or someone that's importing wine. And then you've also got your gift baskets, those types of people are remote sellers. There's sort of three, I think it's three, who are setting themselves up under a license where they actually are just delivering, like your Uber, which we're looking at. So.
Interesting.
Or is it the one who manufacture like Two Thumb Brewery?
Yes.
Is someone like that?
They have a remote, yeah, so your bottle stores will also have a remote sale component to it as well.
Okay.
You can go on, and even the supermarkets have them as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
You said something else at the very start. So one is this bow cell. Something else you said mentioned earlier.
I can't remember. There's on license, so the other ones are on.
On license.
So majority are on licenses, but one other thing is some on license have it across the bar off license, like that's.
Okay.
So there's some of the bars in town have those.
All right.
To have installed license. Okay.
I guess one of the things we wanted to know more about as a board was the impact we as a board can have on any new applications.
Yeah, so I went away and had a look at that. So, and you're talking about objecting to a license.
Yeah, or like sometimes we get complaints from community not happy with the location, or especially if a particular vendor has got bad track record. And it could be not just with the alcohol, but could be an employment issues as well, but just as such, the individual business owners.
So as a community board, you want to engage in the process for your community.
That's right, because our interest is to save for community, so.
Okay, so if you want to do that, that sits under 2042B. So that's where, and what you need to do is actually let the community know and seek leave to actually come along and appear for your community. Okay, the other way now is you can do as an individual. So as an individual, you can still object. You've just got to be very clear with them which one it is. They'll ask, they'll hear your objection either way. They just need to know. But if it's going to be as a community board, you've got to seek leave. Does that help?
Yeah.
And that has been done in the past by several boards, hasn't it?
Yes.
Sure. Yeah. No, that's good to know. Any other questions? Ali?
Yeah, mainly because I think this was also brought on this appearance today. Wasn't it by the Electric Avenue drug issue as well?
You want to talk about that now?
Yeah, I think you had questions around that, didn't you, Ali?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't want to get into the reportage of it and what the reporter was asking and what the organizer was saying, because some of that seemed to be at odds. But there was, sorry, you go.
No, I just said okay. Yep.
Oh, okay, sorry, I'm on Zoom. It's a bit delayed. I think what was concerning, perhaps from my perspective in the reading of it, which again might not have been balanced, was that there seemed to be a lack of appetite, which might have been the word that was used when it came to the local authority in wanting to support testing of drugs at a venue like this. Is there anything in the law or in, I don't want to use the word culture, the policy of the council that does not like or want to address issues such as drug testing?
No. Look, I agree with you. I think at the end of the day, it sits with the actual event organizer, and we leave it with them. We certainly support drug testing, but we will leave what the actual event wants to do with them. So.
Okay, would the council, I think that was the other thing I was going to ask, because there's clearly a cost related to the testing and the application and so forth. Would the council ever go so far as to financially support, encourage or advocate for drug testing at events?
I know there's a cost, and that sits with the event organizer at the moment. And it's a substantial cost. Who pays for that? It's not really for me to comment, I don't think.
No, that's fair. I think perhaps what I'm meaning is that is there a place for some advocacy on the part of the community, or even to be a long-term plan discussion as far as funding goes? Probably not this time round. Any idea what that dollar figure is on the substantial cost?
Oh, it was
Roughly?
shared in confidence.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
at the moment, there's no legislation that we as council administer associated with the drug testing. So the sale and supply of alcohol legislation is silent on that. So it's not incorporated within it. So unless it's legislated and then passed down to local government to administer, we wouldn't have a part to play there.
You've just answered my question, Tracy. Actually, there's no obligation to, because it's not in legislation. Thank you. Yep.
I know we are waiting for the report for Edgeware Village alcohol ban, right?
Yes.
Sorry?
We've got a couple of communities at the moment which are having issues with antisocial behaviour and wanting to implement alcohol bans. So we're just kicking off the process for that in Edgeware Village. So I guess you'll see that coming to you.
I have seen that.
You've seen it?
Yes. Yeah.
Is there any sort of advice you want to give us on that process?
Look, I know what I can tell you is what we've seen and what I'm aware of. I know the police are about to write in support.
Okay.
We've been down there monitoring, and we would support it. So the issues that were brought to you by those local businesses, we have seen as well, or we're aware of them as well.
Okay.
So
what are the eligibility criteria for this to go through, a part of businesses? Because it was quite nice that businesses have come to us and asked for it, local public, and now I'm hearing police is in support. There are other criteria which would allow us to make the area.
it doesn't really sit on my playing field.
Okay, all right.
No, we certainly can give you information.
Okay.
What's going on and what we're hearing. But
I mean, each application is unique in its own way, so they're all looked at in case by case.
Oh, is that's the way it's assessed?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
And then ultimately it's up to the councillors. Any other questions? Simon?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the information for coming along. Just would like to clarify a little bit further the role that community board members can have in objecting to a licence application if they're acting in their own capacity. And I'm just having a look at the decision on Thirsty Liquor Papanui, where I was the sole objector. And it seems in that, my understanding historically had been that community board members, being a community board member didn't give an elected member any particular interest or standing. I was told more recently that it did. In that decision, it still seems a little bit ambiguous. So I'm just wondering if there's any clarity around that, if we are wishing to submit an objection in our own capacity, how being a community board member affects the decision as to whether that objection might be heard.
I think you've got to separate it. So if you're objecting as an individual, then that's what you should do, object as an individual. If you're objecting as a community board, then seek that the actual committee that's what we want to do. And there will be the reasons why you're doing it. Your community has come to you, you've seen an issue, and you want to be heard on it. Does that help?
It does, yeah. I think with that particular one, there was perhaps a little bit of miscommunication or misunderstanding as to exactly what capacity I was communicating in, but I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, you put it on a letterhead from the community board. I would have probably removed that and done it as an individual. Oh,
it wasn't on a letterhead, but it did have my role under my signature.
So separate that. Sorry, that's
Yeah, you need a mandate from the community and then agreement from the board to represent the board. Which would could you have got that? A bit more time.
Oh, who knows? Yeah, it's in the past now.
Yeah. What is done is done.
It is.
But that's good to know.
Got a good result though.
And
Well done.
good to know for moving forward. We do get asked by our community. Yeah. Cool. Cool. Anything else from anyone? Thank you. Thank you for.
You've got another hand up.
Oh, John's got a hand up. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, hi. Just leading on from that, if, say, an issue, an application or a renewal arose and it was of community concern, I just want to clarify the steps that we might go through. So if I had such a situation, I might come to the board at our meeting or by correspondence and say, the community has a general view on this particular establishment. What do we as a board think? And if the board agrees to it, we then seek leave under section 204B and submit or object as a board. Is that the process? And if so, how long do those steps tend to take?
Okay, you want to say something here?
Yeah, it's probably best to come to me, John. Well, the board is, and I can outline some of those steps because, correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, but in terms of the community board, if they're applying for leave to appear under section 204(2)B, then that's not the same section as an objector. When a board member as an individual, they can be an objector and they'd be putting under their objector individually. In terms of the time frame, the hearings advisor would be in touch about them going back to, in the case of an objection, as long as it's a valid objection, that would go straight through a request from the board. We'd seek a resolution out of a meeting, and we would put through the request, and the chair of the district licensing committee would have to accept that. And a lot of the timeframes from there are dependent on the committee and their process. So hopefully that helps. That if you have a particular issue, feel free to come and talk to me about what resolution that the board needs to do to kick that off. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, again, but I suppose one of your distinctions there is when the board appears, it puts forth a submission. If you're doing it individually, then there's freer rein to put in direct evidence. There's a little bit of a distinction there that we could help clarify, and the committee would also help clarify as to the different ways in which you can participate as opposed to which way you go.
Yeah, copy that. Thank you. Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Mark. So just clarifying, we as a board can't just decide as a board, we don't think our communities would like this and decide to take it. We have to have our community come to us and ask us to advocate on their behalf. Is that correct?
Usually the scenario I got when I spoke to the commissioners is usually the communities come to you.
Yeah.
Okay, you meet, you decide, then you jump into the actual process.
We have to have that mandate from the community. Yeah. No, that's really helpful. Cool. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to come along today.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's good. Thanks for answering our questions.
That's all good.
No, my
Julie departure. Sorry, no, I didn't. No, thank you. Right. Ashley and George. Sorry about the wait.
No.
You're going to talk to us about good to go ways to get to school.
Yes, and we definitely won't take the 45 minutes. I just know when we came and chatted about this last time, everyone had a few questions, so I didn't want to short time you in case we were first off or something like that. That's the thing. But perfect. Can I use the clicker? Is that working, Mark?
Try. See what it does.
Yep, that's it. Spoilers. Cool. So, yeah, kia ora, my name's Ashley.
Kia ora, I'm George.
I'm speaking directly into the microphone, so yeah. So we are community travel advisors in the Transport and Waste Unit, obviously at Council. And the main work we do is around improving kind of road safety awareness and active travel around schools. So we kind of deal with everything transport related to do with schools and kind of act in a way as a middleman for schools when they've got issues, so they don't kind of get lost in council processes or trying to find the right person to ask about the tree being cut who's different to the person about the berm being mowed and the so we kind of just act so they can come to us so that they don't get all lost in the system. So yeah, we're here today to talk about our program and what we kind of offer our schools Since we came to you last, we've kind of wrapped up what we do kind of into a nicer, cleaner bundle, and we're kind of going around on a road tour almost all the boards to kind of show you what we do offer and have available to schools, because we do know quite a few of them are getting a wee bit antsy about quite a few different issues and things like that. So we want to know where you can kind of direct them when they come to you with these issues. Just as a preference, everything we kind of do, the cost for schools is $0. If they're doing stuff on their own school site and things like that, obviously there does come to a cost for them. But in general, what we do is all free for them.
Cool. So this is just a snapshot of what the programme sort of, the stakeholders that we sort of work with along the way and have worked with along the way to get to where we are. Just a real good snapshot. You can see it's a really vast range from museum police right through to Ministry of Education. You know, we've had really good buy-ins and feedback. It's a really good collaborative piece. This is just another nice thing we just like to include. It's not just about transport, so it's not all transport focused. It's all about like you can see there, connecting, being active, taking notice, learning, and giving back to your community. So it's just a real good snapshot of the programme. That work? There you go. And this is obviously what we offer schools. Again, it's just a nice visual. I'll just leave it there just for a second. You can see lots of pictures. It's a real snapshot of what we can offer to schools through our programme.
So the Good to Go Ways to Get to School program. So this program is kind of designed as kind of an encouraging, ongoing, supportive environment for schools. So they sign up onto the program with us, and then they kind of have continuous engagement with us, and we check in with them. We've got quite a few offerings that we'll talk about in a second, and we just touch base with them just to kind of check in how they're doing. You'll get the slides, so you can, there's a lot of text on some of the slides, and that's just there, so if you're wondering about it at a later time, we definitely won't talk to all of it. So the commitments to schools signing up onto our program itself. So for the primary and intermediate schools, it's participating in Walk a Wheel to School, a Walk a Wheel to School Week event. We have around 75 to 80% coverage of primary and intermediate schools already participating in this event. So it's not really a big deal for a lot of schools to kind of jump in and participate in that. Receiving our newsletters. So this is a termly newsletter we send out, so we're not being bombarded with us with random things that we've decided to send them that day. And then we've got in there, participate in and distribute our annual school travel survey. So we send them a nice email. It's out at the moment for them to be filling out. We send them a nice email, kind of sum it up, and we also send them the copy and pastable bit for their newsletter so that they can copy paste it, make a few edits in it, and send it out to parents straight away. So that we try and make everything we do and all the comms that we send them very easy for them, pretty much, to just be able to, less faff is kind of all we're about. And then for our secondary schools, it's very similar. However, we do kind of work with a group of students on that kind of active travel promotion so that they can kind of build something that kind of suits their school. We are looking at ways that we could make a blanket thing like we do for primary and intermediate, but yeah, we're kind of just working with them individually at this stage to kind of what works with their school communities, because they're all a wee bit different. And then also participating in Crash Bash is kind of the other difference, which we'll talk about later. So this is kind of we'll take you through a snapshot of what our schools who are registered onto the program can kind of access, and then we'll chat you through kind of what any school in Christchurch can kind of access, regardless if they're on the program or not.
Cool. So this is the extended supports. This is on top of the commitments that the minimal for being on the program. So available all year, you've got walking school bus workshops, which is something we run. You've got additional walk a wheel to school weeks, which we'll talk about further along the presentation. Other active travel promotions, schools might have ideas. They'll come to us with ideas on how to encourage active travel at their school. We'll support them. We've got two new staff on the ground that are like the school. They're on the ground all the time. They're not in the office, so they're the ones that their school contact, so they can work with them. Classroom workshops, again, we'll cover further along. School travel plans, I'm sure you've heard of them before. They've been around for a long time, so this isn't replacing them, but this is almost like the new refreshed version, just more engaging for schools because it's more of a hindrance these days towards schools. Annually, there's events we work closely with on the people that run it. So you've got Rotator Week, which is this week. You might know already. So it's run by Break. They That's May every year. Then you've got Rail Safety Week, which is run by Kiwi Rail and
TrackSafe.
So that's in August. And then obviously Car Free Day, which is in September. So these are just events that we present them to the schools when they sign up. And it's just, this is what we can support you with. Pick a mix, pick what you choose. And every school's different. Like some go all in, some just take a few. So it depends. So again, like I say, we're not replacing school travel planning. It's still there. Some schools will need it. Some schools will ask for it. And that's just a brief snapshot of what it is. So it's just a holistic approach. It's a working document that focuses on improving road safety, encouraging the whole school community to use active mode. So it's just a real working document that's really an agreement of us working together. The annual travel survey. We talked about, this is something we launched in 2023. We had 1,800 responses, so it's active now. So we'll close it at the end of the month. So this runs May of every year. It's just going to give us a really good understanding of how travel patterns are across Christchurch and how we can improve our interactions with schools. So this goes out to all schools. The survey is completed, so we just asked one school representative. Normally it's either it's a principal or it's the champion for the programme when they sign up, and then it's just all students, parents, caregivers, whoever wants to fill it out. And schools are really good at promoting this. And hopefully in 5 years' time, 10 years' time, we'll be able to look back on the survey and we'll see trends, and it'll be really good. We need that sort of raw data. This is something, again, this is new as of this year. So we're doing scooter skills, which we contract out Primary School Canterbury, and it's for year 3 students. It's going really well. We're into double digits now, well into double digits for schools that are on the programme that, as a result of being on the programme, have access to this. So it's popular. It's a really good initiative that's doing really well.
So that's just giving them the skills to be able to
ride safely, stopping safely and getting on your scooter safely, and just that's safe, how to wear your helmet properly and all those kind of things at that year.
Would this be implemented in terms of workshop?
It's a lesson. It's about an hour lesson, 45 minutes to an hour. So it's just
delivered in class
on the courts, or or depending
inside
or inside if it's wet weather, but it's all incorporated into the
school time.
45. It's short enough for the attention spans and stuff, but really good feedback so far, which is cool.
And then we do have, since we do have our new part-time staff, they have been running these in-class workshops. So we have created these alongside the police in Whakatahi, and we've kind of trialled them, and now they've come out of their trial phase. And we put these on display last week to some councils, and we've already had people kind of jumping at these and asking for them, and they want the resources. So that's really great. So we have Exploring Active Transport. I'll just talk you through them real quick, but we have junior and senior. So our junior one does a bit of stop, look, listen, teaching kids about crossing the road. And then the year 3s and 4s start to have a wee bit more of a deeper look at infrastructure at their school that supports them travelling actively. So they have a look at where the bike sheds are or the scooter stands and where the school crossing is. And it's kind of like a wee bit of a scavenger hunt and things like that. So it kind of makes it quite fun. And then our senior students start to explore more about different road users and what active transport is. And also around, they start to look at kind of infrastructure that's out there and what is safety features and different hazards that they see on the road and how they would kind of deal with those hazards, which is quite fun. Then we have Safer Speeds, which is an adaptation from the Whakatahi one that they have. We've just kind of simplified it a step back. Theirs was quite a long lesson and it had like lots of different parts, but we kind of wanted to be able to roll it out. And this is more stepping children through kind of, if a car's traveling at a high speed, it takes them longer to stop is pretty much the gist of it in the end of the day. So kind of teaching them, if you're in that's why we kind of have slower speeds in certain areas. And if you're in a high speed area, it will take a car longer to stop if you kind of suddenly cross the road and things like that. How to catch the bus. So we've done this alongside ECAN and the Metro team there. So Increasingly, lots of kids are taking the bus, which is fantastic, but increasingly a lot of kids don't know how to catch the bus. So we kind of just take them through, what a Metro card is, how to wave down a bus, how to tap your card. Also etiquette on the bus around not eating and loud music and all of those sorts of things. So trying to tackle it before they start taking the bus. So it's kind of an end of year thing that we normally do, term 3, term 4. Which has been quite well received. And even the teachers who were kind of, at the back and stuff during the workshop, they were like, oh, I didn't realise. Yeah. So that was quite cool. And then we have a Making a Difference in Creating a Change workshop. So we work with leadership groups and it might be around them bringing an issue, helping them with an issue to bring to the community board that they're having. It could be in creating a video for their school about an issue that, people are crossing the road in the wrong place, so use this crossing, or just whatever kind of they see as their thing. We kind of just support them in kind of having a voice and raising awareness of that issue, which is quite fun. Did you have a question, Ali, on in-class workshops?
Yes, I did, and it links back to what you just said then about parents. About teachers. My question was, do you ever do these with the kids and their parents and caregivers, or just with the parents? And I'm sure it would be to do with funding. But isn't this just perfect that we start to bring in an understanding from the parents' perspective as well? Is that something you'd consider?
Yeah, it isn't something we've explored necessarily quite so around the parents. We are at the stage now, because there's out of trial, we're creating kind of some bits and bobs, or like a DLE flyer almost, that the kids take home at the end to kind of talk about what they did that day, especially for our junior active transport, where they've learned stop, look, listen, so the parents know when a kid, next time they get to a crossing and the kid's like, stop, look, listen, and the parents are like, what on earth are you on about? That sort of thing, and kind of giving them some active travel tips. And we also talk about, we get the schools, if they're keen and supportive on it, to send out comms around setting up a walking school bus at school, and we try and link all of that sort of stuff at the same time that we're doing this. So yeah, we are trying to get more into that parent span.
I just think if you actually engaged with them in person, because look, my kids are growing up now, but if they came home and went, look what I did today, I'd go, I'm doing dinner, would you just go over there? And I mean, I'm just thinking at the moment that it might be a good idea to start changing the lack of knowledge and understanding that parents and caregivers have generationally. And then it's going to make your job easier further down the line, that you don't have to be bringing in or teaching these brand new cohorts every year, this stuff that's completely new.
Yeah, so one thing we are doing with these workshops is we're running them at the moment, but the two staff that we have are funded from Better Off funding that we got through the water stuff. So we are phasing that these will be workshops that teachers can run kind of at home, and there'll be kind of worksheets and stuff like that that can go. So this is kind of phase 1 of the journey of all of this. So yeah, bringing in parent stuff and things like that is definitely something we wouldn't say no to.
Awesome.
But
Thank
this
you.
is definitely, step 1 of our journey.
Yeah, good job. Thank you.
At the moment, it's offered to school. It can be open to community groups, and that's where the parents might engage better.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So something we do that is nah, not anymore. So something we do engage with parents with is walking school buses. So something we offer a walking school bus workshop. So these are kind of more information sessions than they are, you're running a walking school bus or you're going to be walking on it. And they're kind of marketed in that way as well. As if you want to find out more information about them, what they are, we have a lot of parents that come to them that are actually just interested in sending their kid on one, and they're like, but I want to know more about it before I just send my kid on a walking school bus. So we kind of step them through what they are, how to run them, how to set them up, how to get them going, all of that sort of stuff. We work quite closely with the school. So we have resources like consent forms and route plans and volunteer guides and all of that to kind of support them with. And then when they're we do have quite a hands-off approach compared to other councils. But those other councils are now coming to us to be like, how on earth do you step back at all? Because we've become too deep. And now there's not enough of us to be able to keep supporting. And so we'll help with route assistance and things like that. So when they're like, oh, we're going to walk this way, we'll come out and walk with the parents that are walking it and be like, oh, actually, because they'll be like, oh, we'll cross here. We might be like, oh, actually, might be better to cross back there because of this crossing, or there might be like little things that we notice, like, oh, maybe there should be some extra yellow lines or things like that. And it's working with the traffic engineer then on that. So we, bring in traffic engineers when needed and kind of just double check what they're actually doing. And we check in with them all the time, the ones that we know are running. We do have what we call our black market ones that we don't know are going on, that kind of just teeter around and they do their thing. But the support is definitely always there if they need it.
How many of them are there across the city? Like, are we talking like tens? How many schools?
I think it's
we have
it's one
about
of those
5 schools that we know are definitely doing them.
Yeah.
But then I see them around of schools that I don't know are doing them.
There's a lot more potential for more schools.
Yeah.
And we definitely have rises and falls of people who are interested. One thing we are possibly looking at doing and going down that kind of road is looking at holding kind of community almost sessions for people rather than school specific. That's just something we'll kind of start to look at soon. And that's so that if a parent at a school that maybe the school isn't super keen to be like, yeah, we're doing this, there might be a parent that's like, oh, I'm interested in it though, because we do find that at some schools. So yeah, we are looking at those sorts of options to kind of support those parents that maybe the schools.
Yeah, because it may be just another thing that the school doesn't want to add to their workload.
Exactly. So we are kind of starting to kind of look at how else we can expand the walking school bus network. So yeah, which is quite exciting. So schools that are on the program, frequent stuff that we get all the time is parking enforcement. So parking enforcement now normally comes to George and I to kind of double check before they go out to schools. Just to see what's going on. If it's reoccurring, we kind of keep our finger on the pulse of what's happening at certain schools, or like we started to get some issues up by Marion College and things like that, but it was kind of coming up as it being that intermediate was the issue, but we actually knew that Marion College was advertising that people should park kind of north of the road. We were like, we don't think this is the intermediate that's causing the issues. Let's back up on that. So since we're kind of a lot more involved in our kind of school spaces, that's now kind of sits with us to let them know they kind of liaise with us, which is kind of cool. Things like P3 parking restrictions, all of that sort of stuff obviously still comes through the board for approval, but instead of kind of going through that full school travel plan process like we used to get schools to, we now kind of just do it under the program. We don't kind of make them do full school travel surveys and all of that sort of stuff. But yeah, things like traffic lights, care crossing, all of your kind of big ticket items, as you know, come with very high costs. You guys are very well aware of that. So normally, they need to be put on a list or on an LTP or something like that. And we normally look at a full school travel plan for that. We don't kind of shy schools away from this though, because sometimes there'll be a project somewhere else and it might not be marked as a school safety improvement, because technically it's not to do with the school, but it's like, oh, but actually the school really needs that. So it is, we always kind of bring them in. And they're normally things that we bring the kids to you guys about when they're like, we need signals outside our school. We'd get them to do their presentation to the board about that, and get them advocating for themselves, and learning how to advocate for themselves in that space. Because personally, it's kind of something, I guess a passion project of mine is that more children understand the process. And so when they're like, oh, the basketball hoop never has a chain on it or something, they know where to go to kind of express that.
Good. Quick question on the P3 parking. How effective is it? Do parents and caregivers, do they actually follow the P3 or only when enforcement?
It depends on the school.
It does, yeah.
It actually can depend on the school and it can depend on the term. Right. So term 1, It never normally goes well. And that's normally because you get a whole lot of new year 0, year 1s. And parents don't actually 100% understand what a P3 is sometimes. Or they'll kind of see it and they think, oh, school drop off, so I can park here to take them in. It's like, no, it's actually 3 minutes of parking, and that sort of stuff. So yeah, it really does depend on the school, because some schools, yeah, we have recurring issues at, but then other schools it's ticks along and it goes really well, and they've got a whole system set up, so it works. But yeah, so this, I guess the next stuff is all stuff that, so that was all stuff that we kind of offer just to our registered schools, but this is all stuff we offer to kind of all of our schools in Christchurch regardless.
Cool. So first up, it's Walk School Week. This is held, we hold it in the first full week of March every year during term 1. It's a really cool event. We started it as a week long in 2022, and it's just gone from 74 that year to 77 last year, and now we're at 105. So largely thanks to our cousins, Selwyn, Waimakariri, Hurunui, the West Coast. They all have got wind of it through just our channels and our various hui's we have, and they want to be part of it. So it's really cool. So it's almost become like a Canterbury-wide event. Yeah, like I said, each school gets a resource pack. We have loads of really cool sponsors that come on board. It's a real fun event, and we always get really nice feedback every year, and hence why on the next slide, every year we do a post survey, and every year schools say, I wish we could do this every term, wish we could do this every week, whatever they say. Some schools are really passionate. So what we've done is we just jumped on it this year, and we're going to trial a smaller event in term 4, still the same premise, daily themes, fun. We'll hopefully might get a few sponsors on board, but we're not going to go all out with the Facebooks and the sponsored ads. And we're just a much smaller, as we're winding down to the end of the year. And we've soft launched it already, just through our newsletters and through our travel planning assistants on the ground. And we're already about 43, which is great. And that's just from schools that see it and think, I want to keep doing it. So yeah, so that's happening. Should have put the date on there. Where's the date? That's
the week of that. I think it's the 18th of October.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, 18th, so it's a while away, but yeah, obviously something we're going to try this year, but so far it's looking really good. Yeah, so that's something we're going to do.
Yeah, so really quickly, we get behind Road Safety Week with breaks, so we get a rundown of each of the schools that register through them. So we kind of can keep a tab of all of that. This year we trialled sending some resources boxes out to those schools. So we have around 18-ish schools that signed up this year. So it's not a really large number, but about keeping those messages of being bright, being seen out there. So we sent them out some kind of high-vis gear for when they're out kind of using active travel. So when it's already dark at 4 p.m, getting home from sports practice, they can kind of, yeah, be bright. Another thing which I have always been aware of, but we're kind of getting a bit more behind and hopefully getting a bit more information a lot sooner, is Rail Safety Week. So this is held the first full week of August every year, and it is something that we'll be pushing a lot more this year, and pushing a lot more in our schools, so especially around like Belfast and Christchurch Girls and Waimari and all of that sort of stuff, those ones that are directly along the train line. Any schools though that are interested, we're definitely not going to be like, no, you're not by the train line, so don't talk to us, but we'll be really targeting in on those schools to kind of getting those safety messages out a lot more. And then
there's a few here in Papanui.
Yeah, there's a lot here. yeah. They were just the ones off the top of my head. We just had a meeting with police just before this, so they were ones we talked about. And then Southern Cast, World Car Free Days, 22nd of September, really nicely always lands in our school holidays or the weekend. But it is something that we do still kind of publicise to schools. I know a couple have put out before around, about having a car-free day in the school holidays, and can you catch the bus, whilst you're doing these activities, or walk or cycle and stuff. So trying to get schools to, continue those messages that, it's not just about getting to and from school. It can be about getting to and from the park down the road and things like that too. which is cool.
And then there's obviously a well-oiled machine in CycleSafe. Again, as I'm sure you're aware, this is something that we offer through our wider team. Great numbers year on year, great satisfaction rate. Yeah.
Are you at capacity for that, for what you can deliver?
Relatively.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, we often get told, it depends. It honestly depends on what the calendar looks like.
If there's schools though, that you know of that you think should be booked and things like that, let us know. But there's not many schools that aren't, and the ones who aren't are ones that we've approached and they've said no and things like that. So yeah.
What sort of reasons do they give for saying no?
Time.
Yeah, sometimes it's
It's
time.
2 days, and it's
or splitting out the year 5 and 6 class.
Yeah.
Because we only offer year 6s. But yeah, it's normally, or sometimes they just don't reply. It's a mixed bag, but yeah. Did you have a question on CycleSafe, Ali?
Yeah, just really quickly, what's the split of funding as far as council and central government goes, or authorities like NZTA and so forth?
I wouldn't know that, sorry, off the top of my head, but we could come back to you on that. We can find out and come back.
And then this is also another part of our realm. So it's Crash Bash. So you might have heard of it again. It's been around for years. It's 30 years, almost 25. 25. Long time.
Maybe 30 actually.
I want to say it's 30.
I think it was 30 this year.
Long time in Christchurch. So it's a performance by the Court Theatre now, but it used to be someone else back in the day. It's obviously has a theme. Themes revolve around road safety. Museum police get involved. We go to high schools that sign up. It's a really good event. It's February, March every year. So
you guys are always invited and welcome to come along too. So if you're ever interested, come around next year.
We can let you know what schools are signed up.
So it's delivered in the school?
Yeah. So it's in the performance, I guess it's normally 2 actors from the Court Theatre and then 1 from the New Zealand Police. And they talk about different road safety issues. I guess it has a wee bit of humour in it, but they'll talk about different intersection issues or why we have giveaways and stop signs and what they mean and things like that. So you can actually watch this year's show on the website if you wanted to have kind of a feel for it. It's quite cool and interactive, and the kids come up on the stage and participate in different things.
And this is for high schoolers, or?
Yeah, so years 11 to 13. Yeah.
And this is just a snapshot of what principal resources we can provide to schools. This is just all stuff within our team we can provide. So there's a good list of things that schools have full access to and we can send out.
That's really small when you put it up on a screen like that far away. You guys are nice and close. But what's really cool from our surveys that we've done through school travel planning and stuff is that we can see that what we do actually does make a difference on that carb mode shift. Sprayton School, I would preface that they did move sites as well. So that always helps us a little bit. But I have gone back to Hallsville School as well since then, and they've dropped again another like 10%, and that's just from those ongoing kind of engagements and things going on, people being aware and knowing what's going on. It just, those little small things make a difference. It's really hard for us to see kind of what we do on a year-to-year basis, making those big differences. But we kind of start to see it as we elongate our data, which is why we're quite excited for our annual data to kind of start to come out. Another really cool thing is the other week, earlier this month, we actually won an award for our Good to Go Ways to School program. So the award was based around like innovation, leadership and things like that in this space, and kind of safe and sustainable transport. Our program has won this award, and it is being kind of looked at as kind of a new state of play for a lot of councils on how they'll be looking to do their work in the future, as kind of funding starts to come down and things like that. This is how they'll starting to look to roll their programs out, which is quite cool. So what we're doing it definitely is good, I promise. And yeah, just a reminder that what we do is free. Does anyone have any questions? I feel like we have chatted to you guys about this before, so.
Congratulations on that award. It's great to see you guys being acknowledged like that, because you obviously, I mean, those stats show that you are making a difference. John.
I'm just applauding the presentation. So actually, but since I'm on, you can't shut me up now. I do have a question, and I was just dropped off for a little while before off air, so I might have missed it. But mine's sort of just looking for your insights as to what happened. When I went to school deep in the middle of last century or so, everybody rode bikes and walked to school, apart from the farm kids like me. And when I went past my old high school down south the other day, the bike sheds have been deleted. They've been pulled down, and I've noticed that anecdotally no one does it. What do you think? Is that a sociological trend, or what happened?
Yeah, I think it's just that car culture that New Zealand's kind of just been growing. And, students can pick up a cheaper car, not necessarily to say it's a safe car or anything like that, and they just start driving from that young age. I guess it's cool to drive a car. So that's what they do. I did actually miss a stat before as well. We have the 143 schools approximately in Christchurch, and we do already have 46 on our program. And we just launched it at the start of this year. So we've sent about 3 emails to say, hey, you want to sign up? And they're already kind of jumping at this. So it is something, our schools, we did focus groups, but it is something that they're very happy to have.
Thanks for that. And whatever the case may be, I was really heartened by the bar chart that shows, the trend that's coming about, the move away from cars. Great work.
I think on that, through our annual survey, like we talked about earlier in the presentation, we'll be able to see those trends citywide. Soon we'll be able to compare the years, which would be great. And then the more trends we see, the better. And long may it continue. Hopefully.
Brilliant. I've started to notice it anecdotally too. Just more students on foot or on bike during to and from school times. It's good.
It'll be interesting to be able to compare that data as well with like where the new cycleways are going and that sort of thing.
Yeah, it will.
Yeah.
Ellie.
Yeah, very quickly, this kind of presentation fills my cup over this kind of traffic and transport stuff. I've been really vocal about, cycleways, raised platforms, all that kind of stuff. They're great, but they're one of the tools. And what you guys are doing are actually, you're creating or working with one of the really important parts of this jigsaw. So well done. It's very exciting. I do wish parents and adults could be taught the same things though. And I think there's a real gap there, but well done on what you're doing. And I would be very keen to see those funding figures. If you could get them, that would be great.
Yeah.
You can get them.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, I mean, if we know where that funding's coming from, it's something we can help advocate for. As well.
Yep.
Because we do see the importance of it. Yeah, thanks.
Want to keep it quiet if it's coming from the government.
Yeah.
Well,
that's right.
take it back.
I do know that Whakakotahi does part fund it, but I don't know at what capacity and things like that. So, but I can find that out.
Yeah.
They should always fund more. That's the important thing.
It does come under road safety funding. I know that, not active travel funding. So
road safety is just dropped right down in the government GPS. So I would say just let's go.
Cool. Thank you so much for coming along. And that presentation you did to our principals last year, was it?
Yeah,
it was awesome as well. Real good feedback from them.
Cool. And we're always free to come back if they've ever got some transport stuff they want to chat to us about, and things like that. We're always here.
Those great relationships you're building with them.
Yes.
Thanks very much, guys.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks. We're going to finish with our karakia. Take te hau, no, wrong one. Unuhia, te uru, tata nui, kia wātia, kia mama, te ngākau, te tinana, te wairoa, I te ara takata, koe ara e rongo, whakaia ake ki runga. Ke tino, tine, puye, tahi. Thanks, everyone.
It's cold in here.
It is.
Thanks.